सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। तेरे थे गुरु जी मेरा राई राती जोरे ना, तेरे बाजो दुनिया ते मेरा कोई और ना। तेरे थे गुरु जी मेरा राई राती जोरे ना, तेरे बाजो दुनिया ते मेरा कोई और ना। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। शरमाई तेरी आया मैनू तू कराई ना, दुख में बातेरे पाइए और तारे फाइना। शरमाई तेरी आया मैनू तू कराई ना, दुख में बातेरे पाइए और तारे फाइना। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। दुख नाले पिया तू दिल मेरा तार दे। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे। दुख नाले पिया तू दिल मेरा तार दे। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। सतगुरु प्यारे मेरी जिंदगी सवार दे, कारमा दे मारे तेरे दार ते पुकार दे। So today we have some questions and answers. So one question is, does spiritual enlightenment has physical symptoms? Everything can be. But normally, spiritual enlightenment is a great experience completely above physical symptoms and physical perception. We can say that before a spiritual enlightenment, there may be physical symptoms or mental turmoils, but not when the actual spiritual enlightenment happens. There are symptoms that accompany the, let's say, the leaving of the body. So there are several symptoms, like feeling very huge, like the body becomes, perception of the body becomes like a very huge something or a very small something. There can be symptoms in the heart, that yes, always accompanying the raising above body consciousness. But raising above body consciousness is not enlightenment. They can also go together, but most of the time, no. So several meditators have the experience of raising above body consciousness, but they don't get enlightened because of this. They have a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening, we can say. There is a difference between a spiritual awakening and a spiritual enlightenment. So, for instance, if you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where they talk about, it's about death. So it's about the experiences which accompany the process of dying. There also they describe several symptoms that do occur to a person before and during the death process. And they also can be applied to meditation. Because meditation, what is it? Meditation is learning how to die while alive. That's how Master Kripa always called it. When we meditate, we are learning how to die while alive. So, in this process, there are several symptoms, especially in the beginning. When one begins the practice, it can be intense heat in the body. There can be, as I said, this contraction, like in becoming like an atom, or expansion, like the body becoming very huge. Very often there are symptoms in the heart, like strong heartbeats. That happens to many people. Like if you're going to have a heart attack sometimes. But it's not a heart attack. It's just a symptom that accompanies the process of raising above body consciousness. Sometimes one may feel like suffocating, breathless. in this process very often it's not easy to forget about the breathing. That's why on Satmat practice they don't put much importance to breathing exercises, or they don't advise them. Because then when you are withdrawing from the physical body, the attention goes to the breathing because you are used to this practice. And it makes it difficult to forget about the breathing and withdrawing from the body. But about enlightenment, symptoms of enlightenment, the only symptom is incredible bliss, ecstasy, and an incredible clarity about what life is all about. At least everyone can talk about his own experience. For me it has been like this, seeing things of life like with a magnifying lens, and noticing things which before this I didn't even know they existed. But before this there was quite a lot of turmoil, mental turmoil. And also when I met Master Kirpal, there was another incredible, powerful experience of this kind. So many symptoms, yes, kind of symptoms, but very powerful, really. So, let's say prior to a spiritual awakening, there may be several symptoms, either physical or mental, psychological, turmoils and going through dark period usually. But when it actually happens, it's just bliss and ecstasy. Who did ask this question? You, Bani. So symptoms are there before. You want to translate for him?
Előtte a megvilágosodás vagy felébredés előtt vannak fizikai szimptomák, utána aztán vagy csak utána nincs.
When a change is going to happen, when we are going through a process of transformation, then there are several symptoms. But when it actually happens, then it's pure bliss.
Amikor változás történik, egy átváltozás, akkor vannak szimptomák, de amikor megtörténik, akkor utána teljesül.
The next question is it possible that someone has a spiritual enlightenment without being aware of it? No. Definitely no. Tu capisci qualcosa Tancredi in inglese?
No, questo qui non l'ho capito.
È possibile che qualcuno abbia un'illuminazione spirituale senza esserne consapevole?
No.
Definitely no. My God, it's a very powerful experience. It's not a dream. It's not a joke. It's a
mal di stomaco.
Mal di stomaco.
Vabbè, per dire, non ce l'ha, senti.
So definitely no. I mean, enlightenment is a very powerful experience and transforms you completely, and you can never be the same after such an experience. And your outlook of life will be totally different from then on. So it's not possible that you have a spiritual enlightenment and you are not aware. It's like being born. Are you aware that you're born? I mean, yes, you're aware that you're born. So that's also to be reborn in the light. And you're well aware of it, definitely. Sometimes people have some sort of spiritual experiences, maybe seeing the light, hearing the sound, and then they might be unaware of what's happening to them, think that it's a mental problem or a physical problem, emotional problem, but it's a spiritual experience. Very often it happens, especially in the West, where there is not very much this culture of spiritual experiences and spiritual awakening, that when a person has some kinds of unusual experiences, people begin to think, the person begins to think, and maybe the people of the family and friends, that there is some problem with you, you should go to a psychiatrist or something. And that's really the most harm that you can do to a person like that. Because instead of having a spiritual awakening, then they end up in taking medicaments. So when these symptoms and phenomena begin to happen, sometimes they are misunderstood by people, both by the person who has this kind of phenomena and the people around such a person. Especially in dark cultures and dark religious culture, like can be Christianity, I must say, whenever you have an unusual experience, then it's from the devil. So either it's a mental disease or it's from the devil. So that's the most harm you can do to a person like that. Because in Christianity, any experience which is not, let's say, common something of the church is from the devil. So most of the spiritual experiences for them is from the devil. But not only Christianity, also other religions have these understandings of these facts. But Christianity is very special, I must say. So in the Middle Age, there were so many people having sort of spiritual awakenings and coming in touch with some entities or this channeling kind of things that happens to many people. And they were all from the devil. And they were all burned on the stake. So religion very often is the worst enemy of spirituality or spiritual experiences. Instead of being a help and support for those who have a spiritual experience, it becomes the worst enemy. This is also one of the reasons why I became disgusted with Christianity. because everything is from the devil. So where is God here? You believe that God is omnipotent, omnipervadent, omniscient, moving everything in this whole universe, but then everything is from the devil. So where is the coherence here? There is the logic. So such things always disgusted me, I tell you. That's why my opinion about these religions is very poor. I am an anti-religious person. That's how I am. Because I make a great distinction between spirituality and religion. Spiritual awakening, spiritual phenomenon, and beliefs, which gather through centuries and millennia, and they can be questions because it's the Word of God. And once you say it's the Word of God, this book is the Word of God, then you make the worst crime. Because God is a phenomenon that keeps renewing itself. And it's never the same. So how can you believe in the words of a person that came centuries or millennia ago? Some truths are always valid. But the message, the basic message, doesn't apply anymore to the times. Because truth keeps renewing itself. It's never the same. And this is the big problem of this world nowadays. No, when I was young, I thought that this kind of sticking to these religions was kind of over. But now it's coming back again so strongly. And in the name of religions, the worst things are being done again. It's a shame. Such a so-called scientific age, and then still these beliefs that are so harmful. So if we put on a scale the good and the bad that religion has done to the world, I don't know which place will go down. So going back to the question, no, when you are enlightened, you know it very well. It's an experience that you will never forget for the rest of your life. Where does evil come from? Who's asking this question? Oh. Evil is an apparent phenomenon. Like everything, it's real and unreal. It has a purpose. And the purpose is evolution. As far as it may seem absurd, but evil is very important. Otherwise, there wouldn't be evolution in this world. It's like, what is suffering? Why is suffering? Why is there suffering? Suffering is there because we need to learn things. is not a malediction, going through a very intense suffering period in life. Sometimes from the most dark experiences, there comes out the most bright transformation. So suffering and evil also are needed. See, after the end of the Second World War, everybody understood that there was the most disastrous experience of humankind on this planet that should never repeat it again. Should never be repeated again. And humanity, let's say, made a bit of a jump in going towards a better consciousness of humanity and this planet, the consciousness, general consciousness of this planet. And so many decisions were taken in trying not to repeat such an experience again. But the thing is that experiences are effective or are important for the people who live them. I mean, when you have the memory of something, because it's been part of your life, then that experience has a changing effect on you. Because you know the pain that the experience has brought about. So people who lived that kind of experience of that war, they were very aware of how much suffering caused. So for some time, as far as they were alive, that generation was alive, they had very much in mind, I mean, taking steps not to repeat such a situation. But nowadays, most of those people, or every one of that generation, very few are left from that generation. So we don't know what it really means going through a world war of that kind. And we are ready to repeat it again, because we don't know what it means. And if it happens, it's well and good, because then it will be possible, because of the tough experience, because of so many people that will die. Humanity in general will be able to take a real step towards a much better improvement in all possible fields of life. That's how it goes. And it's like this also in our personal life. When we suffer a lot, then we are capable of taking decisions in order not to suffer again in that way, and improve and become better human beings. There is a saying that says, we often find ourselves facing great blessings dressed up as unsolvable problems. And very often the hardest is the problem, the toughest is the problem, the bigger is the change. So again, religions very often, evil, they understand it coming from Satan, Kal, as they say in India, negative power. But it's not true. To my understanding, evil and good are the two hands of God by which life is transformed. So there is not an evil separated from God. It's His power that moves everything. And according to what is needed, that's what happens. So evil is very apparent. It seems to be there. It seems to be an enemy, an opposite force, but it is not. It is from our perception, but not in reality. It's a power which is very needed for the evolution of mankind. It's like, child keeps doing naughty things, terrible things. Then at some point you give a good slap and it will stop. Nowadays there is very much this culture of never giving a slap to a child. But I don't agree, I'm sorry. Sometimes a good slap, it's a good medicine. So, we also need slaps because of our behavior. So we get sick, we go through mental turmoils, because the way we are living is not good. We have to change. And in joy and pleasure, we don't change. It's like, on this earth, it is said, on this earth there is a much greater progress than in heaven or in the inner planes. Because here there is suffering. Just because of this. Over there it's all beautiful, it's all blissful and ecstatic. Down here, so many troubles. But it is said that down here, in a lifetime, we progress so much more than over there in many years. It's not the right way to say it, because over there there is no time. But it's a span of a period. So evil is apparent. It seems to be so, but it's not so. Very often it's a blessing. Of course, when we see so much suffering in the world, and sometimes so much suffering in the life of some individual who seems to have come in this world just to suffer, there are so many. Suffer either of emotional imbalances or physical diseases. One wonders, how is it possible? But there is this question of this matter of karma, give and take, actions and reactions. And sometimes a lifetime is just meant for suffering, because that's the way you pay what you have done before. So is it bad? It seems to be bad, but it's not bad. I hope I answered the question. The other one is how high we keep, how might we keep the light? We keep the light as much as it is needed for us to keep the light. This question again goes back with the one before. Is when we come on the spiritual path, usually we are given blessing, grace, and because we are going to enter into a new phase of our life, and we are going to be introduced into a path, and therefore we need some nourishment, we need some encouragement. Therefore, when we come on the spiritual path, usually we take initiation, we meet a master, usually we have some very powerful experiences, because that's how we take up the path. If we don't have these powerful experiences, then we don't take up a path, because we don't see a real change from what we used to be and do before and coming on a path. So, when we come on a spiritual path, usually God sends into our life experiences which help us take the decision, make the step, and come on the path. So the light in the form of spiritual experiences is granted to us, and according to, again, our evolution and our perception, our receptivity, then we have certain kinds of experiences. But in order to keep those experiences, then you need to do a lot of spiritual practice. Because if you don't do it, then you lose them. Because it's something very precious. It's a very high experience. It's a great gift that we have to treasure and appreciate. Otherwise, it's taken away from us. And how do we appreciate it? By meditating, doing the practice, so as to keep alive this experience, keep nourishing it. If you don't do it, then we lose touch with the light. Our spiritual experiences begin to fade away. So why we go to a retreat? We go to a retreat so that there we can do an intense spiritual practice and again come in touch with the master power, with the light, with our interiority. But usually in our day-to-day life, we are not able to do so much meditation. We are not in the position of doing, because we have to work, we have to take care of so many things of life. But, as the Master say, we should always dedicate a certain period every day. Otherwise then we get lost completely. And once we get lost completely, then the mind will begin wishing for other experiences, worldly things again, pleasures, to give sense to life. So we lose track completely of our spirituality. Therefore, when the Master at initiation tells us at least meditate 2 hours per day, that's to keep you alive. It's not to really make you progress. That's to keep you alive. But then Master Kepal used to say, if you want really to progress, then you have to do at least 4 hours meditation per day, which for many people is not possible, unless they are able to get up very early in the morning. But that's having a certain quality, a certain potential that not everybody has. But getting up a bit early and doing a couple of hours meditation is possible. Because it's nourishment for our soul, for ourselves. That will keep us spiritually alive. Otherwise we starve spiritually and we die spiritually. And then from time to time we need to go to a retreat like this. Because on a retreat like this, then we dive deep into the practice, and the Master Power manifests again and helps us to grow, improve, and tune in again. Without this, there is no spirituality, there is no spiritual path, there is nothing. In my life I've had hundreds of these. And that's how I kept myself alive. So that's how it works. We have to keep the spirit alive. There is this saying in the gospel, take care that the light in you does not become darkness. Otherwise, very dark it will be. So, you have to keep it alive. Because once you experience it, if you lose it completely, then you become very miserable. You will never really be happy because the ordinary life won't make you happy anymore. Because you experience something superior. And that contact, you don't have it anymore. So you will be miserable. Maybe for a period you may delude yourself that I like it again, to be worldly. But very soon you'll be so fed up with it. So we keep the light by doing our practice. Going on retreats, spend time with the master, listen to satsang. There are so many satsangs online. So every day, listen to satsang. Because it keeps refreshing the teachings. That's how we keep the light on. The enthusiasm. The pleasure of following the path. Could you give an advice on the meditation practice for children? What is a good age for them to begin? During Sanji's time, he told us giving initiation, because it was mostly his representatives giving initiation. The children could be initiated by 6 or 7 on the sound, and by 12, 13 on the light. So which is the way of, let's say, stimulating in the children the interest for a spiritual path, a spiritual practice. Well, it's our life, the life of the parents, what we radiate, and the example that we give. If they see us meditating, they will ask, what are you doing? No? What? They become interested because children are very curious. So they want to know everything. And what the parents do, they also like to do. Maybe in the beginning it will be a kind of a play. But then, by and by, they begin liking it. Sanju used to give the example of Sheikh Farid. He was a Sufi master of India. And his mother, to encourage him to do the practice, the prayers that they do in Islam or whatever, she would put some candies below the carpet. So she would tell him, if you do the prayers, then maybe God will manifest something under your carpet. So you would do the prayers and then look under the carpet and you will find these candies. So, oh, that's good. So I mean, this is a trick. So we have to invent tricks like this to stimulate their interest and their inclination towards doing a spiritual practice. But usually it's like this. Until they become adolescent, they might be interested because children are curious, they like to emulate their parents, so they might be interested in or liking to do some spiritual practice. Once they become adolescent, usually they lose all interest because their main interest is experiencing the world at that point. So it's normal that it is like this. But if they've had it when they were children, it will definitely come back again later on. Because life is a cycle that keeps repeating anyway. So what we experience at some point in our life, if it has been, again, it depends on how true and how felt and intense it is. According to that, it will come back again with the same intensity, with the same way. So that's the way. Find tricks, like masters with us. They try to find tricks to make us move, you know. Otherwise, we just fall asleep. So they have to invent stories to make us move on. Being a parent is like being a master somehow. Parent has to be stimulating for the children and find ways to make the child move in the direction that the parents want, which should be for their good, of course. Like with my daughter, it was like this. When she was very, very small, I managed to make her interested in, also she would meet Sanji when we went for programs like this. So she became interested. She began doing some practice, and maybe not regular, but sometimes she would do. And sometimes she had quite some interesting experience, some special experiences. One evening, I remember when she was 5 or 6, we were meditating with her mother, myself, and she. So there was really the very special occasion in which she said, usually she would stay quiet for some 5-10 minutes and then restless. But there I ended up my meditation and she was still sitting there like this, fully absorbed. So then I asked her, what happened to you? She said, I saw Sanji there was a sphere of light like the sun, and Sanji was just in the middle of this sphere of light. So that was a special experience that she had. But then when she grew up, she became interested in other things, experience in life, and she lost track of it somehow. But then it came back to her in her own way, according to her own inclination. I never tried really to influence her in being the way I am or following the path I follow. She can do whatever she likes. But I see, even if I don't have much to do with her nowadays, but this imprint which I gave to her when she was small is still there very much into her life, and now she acts a bit like kind of a guru. She's a therapist, so she tries to guide people. So that's how it goes. You have to be smart and find ways to stimulate the interest in the kids. So these were the questions. I hope I've given answers to those who asked the question that were effective. Like Chris. He grew up with his father, Norman. Maybe he didn't really push you very much into anything, but it, it colored you by and by.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
That's why you're here now. He's a living example of this kind.
Well, my dad is a good example of a good parent, I think.
Oh yes, couldn't be better.